Forget AI startups. Forget dropshipping. Forget crypto. Some of the most boring-looking businesses in America are quietly making their owners serious money. No venture capital, no fancy startup office, no LinkedIn posts about being an entrepreneur. Just boring businesses that solve boring problems people will keep paying to solve. And here's the crazy part. You've probably driven past some of these businesses hundreds of times without ever thinking about how much money they can generate. Today, I'm going to show you 8 boring businesses that most people completely overlook. For every business, I'll break down the startup cost, how the money is actually made, the realistic profit potential, and most importantly, the ugly truth you need to know before putting your money into it. And number 8 might be the closest thing on this list to a truly low-touch business. So let's get into it. Business number 1, vending machine routes. You see vending machines everywhere. Gyms, apartment buildings, warehouses, hotels, schools, office buildings, hospitals. And most people walk right past them. But here's what makes vending interesting. You don't need to manufacture anything. You don't need employees standing behind a counter all day. And you don't need a storefront. You put machines where people already are, stock them with products people already buy, and collect the difference between what the products cost you and what customers pay. A basic vending machine can cost a few $1,000s, while newer cashless machines and more advanced setups can cost significantly more. But the machine itself isn't really the business. The location is the business. A vending machine in a dead hallway is basically a very expensive piece of furniture. A machine inside a busy apartment complex, factory, hotel, or office building can be completely different. And here's where the model gets interesting. Imagine you build a route of 20, 40, or 50 machines. You don't need to personally stand at every machine. You can schedule inventory runs, use cashless payment systems, track sales remotely, and eventually hire someone to restock the route. That's when vending starts becoming semi-absentee. But don't believe the TikTok version of this business. Machines break, locations can underperform, inventory expires, and getting great locations can be harder than buying the machines.
The real asset isn't the vending machine, it's the route. Build enough good locations, and you've created a small, cash-flowing network that someone else could eventually operate for you. Business number 2, automated car wash. Americans love their cars, and they also love convenience. People don't want to spend their Saturday afternoon standing in their driveway with a bucket, hose, and sponge. That's why car washes can be such an interesting business. But there's a huge difference between a guy washing cars by hand and an automated car wash. An automated operation can handle a much higher volume with relatively few employees. The investment, however, can be substantial. Depending on the property, equipment, construction, permits, and business model, you're potentially looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, well over $1 million, to build a serious express car wash. That's why I wouldn't recommend this as a beginner business for someone with a tiny budget. But here's why investors like the model. A customer comes in, the machine does most of the work, the customer pays. And if you can build a strong membership program, you can create recurring monthly revenue instead of relying entirely on one-time washes. For example, instead of someone paying $20 once a month, a membership could generate recurring revenue every month. Now multiply that across hundreds or thousands of members. That's where the economics can get interesting. But here's the catch. Location can make or destroy this business. You need traffic. You need visibility. You need the right demographics. And you need enough customers who actually value the service. A beautiful car wash in the wrong location can still lose money. So before spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on equipment, study the traffic, competitors, nearby neighborhoods, vehicle ownership, and existing car wash demand. The machines may be automated. The business isn't. Business number 3, self-storage. This is one of the most boring businesses on the list, and that's exactly why I like it. People constantly accumulate stuff. They move, downsize, get divorced, renovate their homes, move to college, start businesses, inherit furniture, and eventually run out of space. That's where self-storage comes in. Instead of renting an entire warehouse to one company, you divide the property into smaller units and rent those units individually. And once a customer moves their stuff inside, you don't need to do much every single day. That's the beauty of the model. If you already own suitable commercial property, a warehouse, or land in the right location, the economics can become especially interesting. You can build different sized units and charge different monthly rates depending on the size and location. Modern facilities can use online payments, electronic gates, security cameras, automated access systems, and digital leasing. That means fewer employees are required compared with many traditional businesses. But here's the part people leave out. Self-storage is extremely location dependent. A facility in an area with low demand can sit half empty, and an empty storage unit generates zero rent. You also have to deal with security, maintenance, insurance, property taxes, construction costs, and local regulations. So don't hear self-storage and think free money. The real opportunity is owning or controlling a property in an area where people genuinely need storage. If you get that part right, this can become one of the more low-touch businesses on the list.
Business number 4, parking lot management. Here's a problem that isn't going away. Where do I park? Go to a downtown area, a hospital, a stadium, an airport, a busy shopping district, or a major event, and parking becomes a business. If you already control an underused lot, you may be able to turn that space into paid parking. The basic concept is ridiculously simple. You control the space. Drivers pay to use it. Technology handles much of the payment process, and an attendant or remote system can handle operations. You don't necessarily need some massive construction project. Depending on the location and local rules, you may need signage, lighting, payment equipment, security systems, striping, and other improvements. But the biggest asset is still the same, the land. And that's also the biggest barrier. If you're paying enormous rent for the property, your parking revenue can disappear before you even start making money. But if you already own the land, now the equation changes dramatically. The really interesting opportunities can come from special events, concerts, sports games, festivals, conferences, and large gatherings. A parking space that might generate ordinary revenue on a normal Tuesday can become much more valuable during a major event. And there's another opportunity emerging, EV charging. A parking operation can potentially combine parking revenue with charging revenue. But again, don't confuse simple with easy. You need the right location, you need demand, you need legal permission to operate, and you need to make sure the economics work after property costs, insurance, maintenance, taxes, and labor. If you already control the right piece of land, though, parking can be one of the lowest complexity physical businesses you can operate.
Business number 5, event rental business. America throws a lot of parties. Weddings, corporate events, graduation parties, birthday parties, festivals, holiday events, outdoor gatherings. And almost every one of them needs stuff. Tables, chairs, tents, lighting, dance floors, decorations, heaters, generators, and other equipment. Here's the interesting part. You don't necessarily have to sell the equipment. You rent it. You buy an asset once and potentially rent it out dozens or even hundreds of times. A basic operation can start with a relatively small inventory. As demand grows, you reinvest the profits into more equipment. But there's a catch. This is not passive. Someone has to deliver the equipment. Someone has to set it up. Someone has to take it down. Someone has to clean it. Someone has to repair it. And during peak wedding and event seasons, the workload can become brutal. That's why the real goal isn't to stay the person carrying chairs forever.
Business number 6, laundromat. Now we're getting into one of America's classic boring businesses, the laundromat. Millions of people live in apartments, condos, and rental properties without their own washer and dryer. And even people who have laundry machines sometimes pay for wash and fold or commercial laundry services because they value convenience. A traditional laundromat requires a significant upfront investment. You need machines, plumbing, electrical work, ventilation, renovations, payment systems, insurance, and a suitable location. But once the facility is built, modern technology can reduce the amount of labor required. Customers operate the machines themselves. Payments can be automated. Security cameras can monitor the facility. And some owners use remote management systems to monitor equipment and revenue. But here's the part you absolutely need to understand. A laundromat is a real estate and location business disguised as a laundry business. A beautiful laundromat in an area where everyone owns a washer and dryer isn't a great investment. A basic laundromat in a dense neighborhood with lots of renters can be far more attractive. And then there's the upside. You can potentially add wash and fold services, vending machines, commercial laundry, pickup and delivery.
Business number 7, local courier and delivery services. Every day, millions of packages move through the American economy. But here's something most people don't think about.
The giant delivery companies don't personally perform every single step themselves. A huge network of local drivers, contractors, warehouses, delivery companies, and last-mile operators keeps the system moving. You can operate a local delivery service serving businesses in a specific area. Think pharmacies, medical offices, auto parts stores, florists, local retailers, restaurants, e-commerce businesses, law firms, and other businesses that need something moved quickly. The startup cost can be far lower than building a traditional logistics company, especially if you start small. But this business has a completely different problem from self-storage. It's labor-heavy. Drivers need to show up. Vehicles need maintenance. Routes need to be optimized. Customers expect things to arrive on time. And one missed delivery can create a very unhappy customer. So this isn't a passive business. It's a systems business. If you're personally making every delivery, you've created a job. If you eventually have drivers, routing systems, contracts, and repeat business handling the work, you've created a company. That's the difference. And in local logistics, recurring B2B contracts can be much more valuable than chasing random one-off customers.
Business number 8, dumpster rental. This might be the most boring business on the entire list, and that's exactly why it's interesting. People don't think about dumpsters until they need one. Then suddenly, they need one badly. Home renovations, roof replacements, estate cleanouts, moving, construction projects, commercial remodeling, property cleanups. And when someone needs a dumpster, they're not looking for a cool brand. They're looking for someone who can deliver the right container on time, pick it up when they're finished, and not create a headache. That's a very boring problem, and boring problems can be profitable. A basic dumpster rental business requires containers, a suitable truck or hauling setup, insurance, disposal arrangements, and local permits or compliance depending on the area. The model is simple. Deliver the dumpster, the customer fills it, you pick it up, dispose of the material, and then rent the container again. The same physical asset can generate revenue repeatedly. And if you build enough containers and establish reliable routes, you can hire drivers and move yourself away from the daily operations. But there are serious costs: fuel, truck maintenance, disposal fees, insurance, equipment repairs, and regulations. Your biggest enemy isn't competition, it's bad unit economics. If you're charging $500 for a dumpster, but your truck, fuel, labor, disposal, maintenance, overhead consume $450 of that revenue, you don't have a great business. You have a very busy business. So the goal is not maximum revenue, it's healthy profit per rental.
So which one should you actually start? There isn't one universal answer, and anyone telling you there is probably trying to sell you something. If you already own or control suitable property, self-storage or parking can be extremely interesting. If you have a smaller starting budget, vending or event rentals may provide a more accessible entry point. If you're comfortable with real estate and a larger investment, laundromats and car washes can become substantial businesses. If you like logistics and operations, local delivery or dumpster rental may fit you better. And if your priority is eventually building something that can operate without you being there every day, I'd pay particular attention to businesses where customers pay repeatedly. The service is standardized, technology can automate payments and monitoring, employees can perform the core work, and the physical asset can generate revenue repeatedly. That's the real formula, not passive income. Leverage. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. None of these businesses are magic. You will not buy a vending machine on Monday and wake up rich on Friday. You won't buy a laundromat and automatically make 6 figures. You won't buy a parking lot and have money falling into your bank account while you sleep. The first stage of almost every business is ugly. You have to find customers, you have to test locations, you have to deal with employees, you have to fix equipment, you have to manage cash flow, you have to survive the months when revenue isn't what you expected, and most importantly, you have to stay in the game long enough to build systems. Because here's the difference between a business and a job. A job pays you when you work. A business can eventually pay you because a system works. That's the goal. Not doing less work on day one. Doing the right work long enough that the business eventually needs less of you. So, if you had to choose one of these 8 businesses, which one would you actually consider? Vending, car washes, self-storage, parking, event rentals, laundromats, local delivery, or dumpster rentals. Tell me the business and your reason in the comments.
And if you're serious about building a business alongside your job instead of waiting for the perfect startup idea, send this video to the one friend you'd actually trust as a business partner. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns of the boring businesses, hidden economics, and money-making systems that most people completely overlook. I'll see you in the next one.